Can a mother remain indifferent to the suffering of her children? In the small Lithuanian village of Šiluva, the Blessed Virgin Mary answered that question in the most poignant way imaginable. She appeared in tears before innocent children and a Protestant pastor, a truly unique event in the history of Marian apparitions. This extraordinary event from 1608 reveals Mary's maternal heart. She weeps when she sees her children straying from the true faith. And it shows us how the love of a heavenly mother can transform hearts, restore lost faith, and reunite a scattered people under the protective mantle of the Catholic Church. Chapter 1. Lithuania and her Catholic faith. Lithuania, a land of deep forests and sweeping plains, had been blessed with the gift of the Catholic faith since the 14th century, when Grand Duke Jogaila received holy baptism and led his people towards the light of the gospel. For over 2 centuries, the Catholic faith flourished in these northern European lands, and the Lithuanian people distinguished themselves through their fervent devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Catholic churches multiplied in towns and villages, and the faithful joyfully flocked to receive the sacraments and to honor the Mother of God. The region of Šiluva, a small town nestled in the heart of Lithuania, was known for its deep religious life and the beautiful Catholic Church, dedicated to the Nativity of the Virgin Mary. The inhabitants of this land especially loved the Mother of God and had consecrated not only their main church to her, but also their homes and families. Every Marian feast was celebrated with solemnity and rejoicing, and processions in honor of Our Lady wound through the village streets as the faithful sang praises and raised their prayers to heaven. However, the storms of history were about to descend upon this land of faith. In the mid-16th century, the winds of the Protestant Reformation began to blow strongly throughout Europe, and Lithuania was not spared these religious upheavals. Nobles and local lords, influenced by the new doctrines arriving from the north and west, began to abandon the Catholic faith of their ancestors. Religious division took root in the very heart of Lithuanian families, separating parents from children and siblings from each other. The town of Šiluva, which had been a bastion of the Catholic faith, soon found itself embroiled in this spiritual conflict. The feudal lords of the region embraced Calvinism and began to exert pressure on their subjects to abandon the Catholic Church. The ancient devotions were forbidden, the processions suspended, and the veneration of sacred images was considered idolatry by the new Protestant preachers. The peace that had long reigned in Šiluva gave way to confusion, and the sorrow of seeing the faith passed down through generations being torn from the hearts of the people. Despite the pressure and the threats, many Lithuanian Catholics remained faithful to the Church of Rome and to the Marian devotion they had inherited from their elders. These brave faithful continued to pray the Holy Rosary in secret, passing on the truths of the faith to their children in the privacy of their homes, and holding on to the hope in their hearts that one day the Catholic faith would flourish again in their beloved land. Little did they know that the Mother of God herself would come to their aid, manifesting herself in a wondrous way to restore what had been destroyed and to remind everyone that she never abandons her children in times of tribulation. Chapter 2. The time of persecutions. The persecution against Catholics in the Šiluva region intensified dramatically in the final decades of the 16th century. The Calvinist lords, who owned vast tracts of land, issued edicts prohibiting the celebration of Holy Mass and the administration of the Catholic sacraments on their estates. Priests were expelled or imprisoned, and those who dared to celebrate Catholic rites in secret risked their very lives. Families who remained faithful to Rome were considered rebels and suffered reprisals ranging from financial fines to the loss of their property and livelihoods. The beautiful Catholic Church of Šiluva, dedicated to the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin, was confiscated by the Calvinist authorities and converted into a Protestant temple. The altars were destroyed, the sacred images removed or burned, and the liturgical ornaments scattered. The tabernacle that had held the Eucharistic presence of our Lord Jesus Christ was desecrated, and the place that had been a center of prayer and Marian devotion for generations was left desolate. The elders of the village wept as they watched the sanctuary of their childhood being stripped of everything that made it sacred in their eyes. The Catholics of Shiluva were forced to travel long distances to attend Holy Mass in neighboring towns where Catholic priests still remained, walking for hours in the intense cold of the Lithuanian winter or the heat of the brief summer. Often, these pilgrimages had to be made in the darkness of the night to avoid being discovered by the authorities. Mothers taught their young children Catholic prayers in hushed tones, fearing that someone might overhear them and denounce them. The Holy Rosary was prayed in absolute secrecy, and the rosary beads had to be carefully hidden so they wouldn't be found during the inspections that Calvinist officials periodically carried out. Despite the terror and oppression, a group of brave Catholics made a decision that would change the course of Shiluva's history. These faithful understood that the sacred objects of their old church were in danger of being completely destroyed or lost forever. Among these treasures were an ancient image of the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus, which had been venerated for generations, and important documents proving the existence and rites of the Catholic Church in Shiluva, under the cover of night. These selfless Catholics secretly rescued these objects from the confiscated temple, risking their lives in this mission of love and fidelity. The small Catholic community that remained in Shiluva began to dwindle year after year. Some died without being able to receive the last sacraments. Others were forced to emigrate in search of places where they could freely practice their faith. And sadly, some ended up giving in to the constant pressure and abandoned the Catholic Church. The spiritual landscape of Shiluva was utterly transformed. Where Gregorian chants and the prayers of the Hail Mary once echoed, Calvinist hymns and sermons denying the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and rejecting the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary now filled the air. It seemed the Catholic faith was destined to vanish completely from this land, a land that had so deeply loved Mary. But divine providence had other plans in store. Chapter 3. The Hidden Treasure. On a dark and silent night in 1570, as the stars shone over the forests of Shiluva, a small group of faithful Catholics executed a plan, one they had secretly contemplated and prepared for weeks. These brave men and women knew that the sacred image of Our Lady and the documents of the Catholic Church had to be preserved for future generations, even if they themselves might not live to see the day of their recovery. With hearts filled with sorrow, but also with hope, they carried these treasures to a safe place, far from the eyes of their persecutors, where they would remain hidden for nearly 4 decades. The place chosen to conceal these sacred objects was carefully selected. The faithful Catholics chose a site near where the old church had stood, next to a large boulder that would serve as a landmark. There, with their own hands, and amidst whispered prayers, they dug deep into the earth. They wrapped the sacred image of the Virgin Mary and the ecclesiastical documents in protective cloths, placed them in a sturdy chest, and lowered it into the hole they had prepared. Before covering the hiding place with earth, they knelt and prayed fervently, entrusting the protection of her own image to the Virgin Mary herself, and asking that one day these treasures might be returned to public worship. The Catholics who participated in this act of faith took a solemn oath to keep the hiding place secret and to transmit this information only to people of absolute trust. Some of them drew rudimentary maps or wrote coded notes that could help locate the treasure in the future. However, the persecution was so intense and prolonged that many of these guardians of the secret died without being able to fully pass on the information. Over the years, The exact memory of the place where the sacred objects had been buried began to fade, although the oral tradition remained alive that somewhere in Shiluva, treasures from the old Catholic Church were hidden. For nearly 4 decades, the image of the Virgin Mary remained hidden beneath the soil of Shiluva, as if Mary herself were patiently awaiting the moment designated by Providence to reveal herself again to her people. The old Catholic Church was completely destroyed, its foundations removed, and grass grew over the spot, until almost no trace remained that a temple dedicated to the worship of the true God had ever existed there. Children born in Shiluva grew up without knowing the Catholic faith of their ancestors, and most of the population had embraced Calvinism. It seemed that Catholicism had been completely erased from the collective memory of the people. Nevertheless, in the mysterious designs of God, nothing is lost or forgotten. The Blessed Virgin Mary, who had been so loved by the people of Shiluva in times past, had not abandoned this land, nor its inhabitants. Beneath the surface of the earth, the sacred image awaited the moment of its discovery. And in heaven, the Mother of God prepared a miraculous intervention that would shake all of Lithuania and restore the Catholic faith to Shiluva. The hidden treasure was not merely an image and some ancient documents. It was the symbol of a faith that cannot be destroyed by human persecutions, a faith that remains alive even when it seems to be completely extinguished, waiting for the moment of its glorious resurrection. Did you know about this very special apparition of Our Lady of Shiluva? It's one of the most moving and unique Marian stories in the Catholic Church, where the Virgin Mary shed tears for her children. Leave us a comment telling us, had you heard about Our Lady of Shiluva before? From what country or city are you listening to us? Your participation helps us bring these stories of faith to more people around the world. We want to know where our brothers and sisters in faith are. Don't forget to give us a like if this story is touching your heart, and share this video so that more people can learn about the wonders that Mary has done for love of us. Now let's continue with this extraordinary story. Chapter 4. The Shepherd and the Children. The day of the apparition of Our Lady of Shiluva dawned like any other summer day in 1608. A Protestant shepherd, a simple man dedicated to caring for his sheep, led his flock to the fields near where the old Catholic Church had stood, now converted into pasture land. With him were some of the village children who helped him with his daily tasks. The sun shone brightly on the green fields of Lithuania, and nothing foreshadowed that this day would be forever etched in the history of the Catholic Church as one of the most extraordinary and moving Marian events. Suddenly, the children began to shout with great excitement, pointing to a large rock in the field. Upon the stone, enveloped in a resplendent light, appeared a woman of extraordinary beauty, dressed in magnificent robes. Her face reflected a deep sadness, and from her eyes flowed tears that fell upon her cheeks. The lady held in her arms a small child, also radiant, and her presence radiated a majesty and holiness that left those who beheld her breathless. The children, overwhelmed by the vision, ran to the shepherd, shouting that there was a beautiful woman crying on the rock. The shepherd, initially skeptical of the children's words, approached the place and was completely paralyzed by what he saw. He too could see the radiant lady weeping on the rock, holding the child in her arms. Being a Protestant, the shepherd was not accustomed to Marian devotion and did not initially understand who this celestial apparition could be. In a trembling voice, he dared to ask, "Why are you weeping?" The answer he received would transform not only his life, but the destiny of the entire region of Shiluva and all of Lithuania. The Blessed Virgin Mary replied with words that flowed from her wounded maternal heart, "I weep because in this place my son was worshipped with great devotion, and now the land is cultivated and sown." With these simple yet profoundly moving words, the Mother of God expressed her sorrow at seeing how the sacred place, where the Holy Mass had been celebrated for generations, where her Son had been present in the Blessed Sacrament, where the faithful had venerated her with filial love, had been profaned and turned into a simple grazing field. Mary's tears were the tears of a mother who sees her children straying from the true faith, deprived of the sacraments and of divine grace. The Protestant pastor and the children stood gazing at the apparition for several minutes, unable to tear their eyes away from that celestial face, bathed in tears. Then the vision gradually disappeared, leaving them in a state of profound awe and reflection. The pastor, deeply moved by what he had witnessed, understood that he had seen something supernatural and transcendent. Despite his Protestant background and all the teachings he had received against Marian devotion, he could not deny the reality of what his own eyes had seen. He ran immediately to the village to recount the miraculous event, and his testimony, along with that of the children, spread rapidly throughout the region, reaching both the ears of Protestants and of the few Catholics who still remained faithful in the neighboring towns. Chapter 5. The Tears of the Mother. The tears of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Shiluva have a profound meaning that speaks directly to our hearts and reveals the nature of Mary's maternal love for all her children. When the Mother of God cries, it is not out of weakness or despair, but because her immaculate heart is perfectly united to the sacred heart of her Son, Jesus Christ. She suffers when she sees her children estranged from the true faith, deprived of the sacraments that Christ instituted for our salvation, and separated from full communion with the Church that her Son founded on St. Peter and the Apostles. Our Lady's weeping in Shiluva reminds us of the tears she shed at the foot of the cross on Calvary, when she beheld the suffering of her divine Son, giving his life for the redemption of mankind. Just as on Calvary, Mary offered the supreme sacrifice of her motherhood, so that we might be saved. In Shiluva, her tears are a silent but eloquent plea for her children to return to the fold of the Catholic Church. Each tear that flowed from the Virgin's eyes was like a drop of maternal love, falling on the land of Lithuania, seeking to soften hardened hearts and awaken the dormant faith in the souls of those who had abandoned the religion of their ancestors. The question that Mary poses in her apparition is of a touchingly simple nature. She weeps because where her Son was once adored, the land is now tilled. This statement leads us to reflect on the gravity of the sin of apostasy and the abandonment of the true faith. The Eucharist, the real and substantial presence of Christ, under the species of bread and wine, had ceased to be adored in Shiluva. The holy sacrifice of the Mass, the unbloody renewal of the sacrifice of Calvary, was no longer celebrated. The sacraments instituted by Christ to sanctify souls were no longer administered. All this caused immense pain to Mary's heart, who, as Mother of the Church, ardently desires that all her children participate fully in the means of sanctification that God has provided. The tears of the Virgin Mary in Shiluva also teach us about the nature of true Marian devotion. Within the Catholic tradition, Mary does not weep for herself, nor does she seek her own glory. Her weeping is completely oriented towards her Son, Jesus Christ. She suffers because her Son is not adored, because the sacred place dedicated to divine worship has been profaned. This is the essence of authentic Marian devotion. Mary always leads us to Christ. She leads us to the Son. She invites us to adore him and to receive him in the sacraments. Devotion to Mary is never an end in itself, but a sure path to Jesus. As the traditional motto expresses, through Mary to Jesus. The message implied in the tears of Our Lady of Shiluva is also a message of hope and of mercy. Mary did not come to Shiluva to condemn, but to call to conversion. Her tears are the tears of a mother who awaits the return of her lost children. who trusts that divine grace can touch even the hearts most distant from God. The choice to appear precisely to a Protestant pastor and innocent children shows the divine pedagogy. God uses the most humble and those who are outside the Catholic fold to manifest his will to gather all his children under one shepherd. Mary's tears in Shiluva are, ultimately, tears of love that seek reconciliation, the reunion of the divided family, the return to the Father's house, where the merciful Father waits with open arms. Chapter 6. The Search for the Lost Church. The news of the apparition of the Weeping Lady in Shiluva spread with extraordinary speed throughout Lithuania, causing a great stir among Protestants, as well as among Catholics. The testimony of the Protestant pastor, a man known in the region for his honesty and simplicity, along with the concurring account of the children who accompanied him, was difficult to dismiss or to attribute to an illusion. The Protestant ecclesiastical authorities initially tried to minimize the event or explain it rationally, but the impact of the event on the popular conscience was already unstoppable. Many Protestants began to feel an inner disquiet, wondering if they had abandoned the true faith of their ancestors. The Catholics of the neighboring regions, upon hearing of the apparition, went on pilgrimage to the place where the Virgin had wept. These faithful, who for decades had maintained their Catholic faith amidst persecution and social ostracism, saw in this prodigy a celestial confirmation that their fidelity to Rome and to the traditional teachings of the Church had not been in vain. Among these pilgrims were some elderly people who vaguely remembered having heard from their parents or grandparents that in Shiluva there had been an important Catholic church, and that certain sacred objects had been hidden before the destruction of the temple. The Catholic bishop of the diocese, informed of the prodigious event, decided to personally investigate the facts. After questioning the witnesses and carefully examining their testimonies, he became convinced of the supernatural authenticity of the apparition. The prelate ordered searches to be conducted at the site indicated by the Blessed Virgin Mary, near the large rock where she had appeared. This decision was not without its difficulties, as the land now belonged to Protestant owners who were initially reluctant to allow excavations on their property. However, the impact of the apparition had been so profound that they finally agreed to collaborate. The excavations began with great anticipation on the part of the inhabitants of Shiluva and of the pilgrims who continued to arrive at the site. The men dug methodically, reciting the Holy Rosary as they worked, asking the Blessed Virgin Mary to reveal where the treasures of the old Catholic Church had been hidden. After several days of fruitless searching, when some began to lose heart, the shovels finally struck something solid beneath the earth. With trembling hands and pounding hearts, the excavators carefully removed the soil that covered the buried object, and before the marveled eyes of all, an ancient chest appeared. Upon opening the chest with reverence and solemnity, those present discovered inside the sacred image of the Blessed Virgin Mary with the child Jesus, which had been venerated in the old Catholic Church of Shiluva, along with documents that proved the historical existence of the temple and its canonical rites. Despite having remained buried for almost 40 years, the image was in perfect condition, as if it had been placed there just the day before. This fact was considered by all as an additional miracle that confirmed divine intervention. The documents found irrefutably proved that Shiluva had been a center of Catholic worship, and that the apparition of the Blessed Virgin had occurred precisely where the destroyed church had been, exactly as Mary herself had indicated in her message. Chapter 7. The miracle that converted hearts. The discovery of the sacred image and of the documents of the old Catholic Church unleashed an unprecedented movement of conversion throughout the region of Shiluva and its surroundings. The first convert was precisely the Protestant pastor who had witnessed the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This simple man, deeply moved by what he had seen and by the discovery of the buried objects, exactly where Our Lady had indicated, requested to be received into the Catholic Church. His conversion caused an enormous impact on the local Protestant community, as everyone knew his sincerity and his honest life. If such a man, raised in Protestantism, publicly recognized the truth of the Catholic faith, his testimony carried extraordinary weight. Entire families began to present themselves before the Catholic priests, asking to be instructed in the faith of the Church and requesting to be reconciled with Rome. Many of these converts were descendants of Catholics who had apostatized during the period of persecution and now felt deep remorse for having abandoned the religion of their ancestors. The tears of the Blessed Virgin Mary had touched their hearts and had awakened in them the desire to return to the true church founded by Christ. The Catholic priests worked tirelessly, catechizing the new converts, explaining to them the mysteries of the faith, teaching them traditional prayers, such as the Hail Mary and the Holy Rosary, and preparing them to receive the sacraments. The conversions were not limited to simple people or those of humble means. Numerous nobles and people of high social standing who had been Calvinists for decades publicly acknowledged their error and requested to be admitted into the Catholic Church. These converts of high social position were fundamental to the restoration of Catholicism in Lithuania, as they used their influence and their resources to support the reconstruction of churches, the opening of Catholic schools, and the invitation of religious orders to establish themselves in the region. The political and social impact of these conversions was immense, gradually transforming the religious landscape of the entire country. The Catholic Church in Lithuania experienced an extraordinary renaissance, where before there had been only a handful of hidden and persecuted Catholic faithful, now vibrant and fervent communities were springing up. New churches were built, seminaries were opened to train priests, and sacramental life flourished once again. Devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, which had been suppressed during the Protestant period, returned with renewed fervor. The Holy Rosary became the favorite prayer of Lithuanian families, and Marian processions once again traveled the roads of Šiluva. The miraculous image found underground was lovingly restored and placed in a place of honor where the faithful could venerate it. The spiritual miracles of conversion were also accompanied by numerous physical miracles and healings that occurred in Šiluva. The sick who came to pray before the image of Our Lady of Šiluva received inexplicable healings. According to the medicine of the time, families divided by religious controversies were reconciled. People who had lived in sin experienced profound conversions and radically changed their lives. All these prodigies were attributed to the intercession of Mary, who, as a merciful mother, continued to shower graces on her children, who had returned to the home of the Catholic Church. The shrine of Šiluva quickly became one of the most important pilgrimage centers in all of Eastern Europe, attracting faithful from Lithuania, Poland, Latvia, and other neighboring countries who came to give thanks to the Blessed Virgin Mary for her blessings. Chapter 8. The Shrine of Reconciliation. The construction of a new shrine at the site of the apparition of Our Lady became a priority for Lithuanian Catholics who wished to honor the Mother of God in a dignified manner. The ecclesiastical authorities, with the enthusiastic support of the faithful and the collaboration of nobles converted to Catholicism, undertook the task of building a magnificent temple that would be a permanent testimony to the miracle that occurred in Šiluva. The construction was not merely an architectural project, but a true work of faith. Poor families offered their savings, artisans donated their labor, and everyone collaborated according to their possibilities. To raise the house of the Blessed Virgin, the design of the shrine reflected both Marian devotion and the desire for magnificence in divine worship that characterizes the Catholic tradition. An architectural style was chosen that combined local Lithuanian elements with the Baroque influence that flourished in Europe during that era. The main altar was specifically designed to house the miraculous image of Our Lady of Shiluva in a prominent location, surrounded by precious ornaments, and beneath a baldachin, symbolizing the heavenly dignity of the Mother of God. The walls of the temple were decorated with paintings narrating the story of the apparition and subsequent miracles, so that future generations would never forget the mercy that Mary had shown to the Lithuanian people. The consecration of the sanctuary was an event of extraordinary solemnity, which gathered thousands of pilgrims from all parts of Lithuania and neighboring countries. The bishops celebrated the pontifical high mass with great pomp, and during the ceremony, the Te Deum was sung in thanksgiving for the wonders that God had worked in Shiluva through the intercession of his Blessed Mother. The miraculous image was solemnly processed from the place where it had been temporarily kept to its new home in the sanctuary, accompanied by multitudes who prayed the Holy Rosary and sang Marian hymns. This day was declared a special feast throughout the diocese, and it was established that the anniversary of the apparition would be celebrated annually with special devotion. The Shiluva shrine quickly became not only a center of Marian devotion, but also of reconciliation and unity. Protestants who had not yet converted to Catholicism, but who felt curiosity or spiritual unrest, came to visit the place, and many of them, upon contemplating the image of the Virgin and listening to the testimonies of the converts, ended up requesting to be instructed in the Catholic faith. The shrine was also a place of reconciliation between families that had been divided by religious controversies. Catholic parents were reconciled with their Protestant children. Siblings separated by decades of estrangement embraced again, and mixed marriages found paths of peace and mutual understanding. The Church Fathers and Catholic theologians saw in the Shiluva shrine a prophetic symbol of the unity that Christ desires for his Church. The fact that the Blessed Virgin Mary had appeared precisely to a Protestant, showing him her tears and calling him to recognize the truth of the Catholic faith, was interpreted as a sign that Mary is the mother of all, even of those who are outside full communion with Rome, and that she works constantly to gather all her children under the protection of the one church founded by Christ. The shrine thus became a place of prayer for Christian unity, and numerous pilgrimages were organized with the specific intention of asking Our Lady of Shiluva to intercede so that all the baptized might reach the fullness of truth found in the Roman Catholic Apostolic Church. Chapter 9. Our Lady weeps for her children. The theological significance of Mary's tears in Shiluva leads us to reflect deeply on the mystery of the spiritual motherhood of the Blessed Virgin Mary, when Jesus, from the cross, said to his mother, pointing to the beloved disciple, "Woman, behold your son," and to the disciple, "Behold your mother." He was establishing Mary as the mother of the entire church and of every soul redeemed by his precious blood. This spiritual motherhood is not a figure of speech or an honorary title, but a supernatural reality. Mary is truly our mother, in the order of grace, and as such, feels an authentic maternal love towards each of us. The tears that Mary sheds in Shiluva are the tears of a mother who sees her children in spiritual danger, just as an earthly mother weeps when her children stray from the right path, when they expose themselves to dangers, or when they reject the love and care she offers them. So also, Mary weeps when she sees souls turn away from the Catholic Church, deprive themselves of the sacraments, and walk along paths that can lead them to eternal perdition. However, Mary's tears are not tears of impotence or despair, but tears that have a redeeming power. Every tear of the Virgin is a powerful plea before the throne of God, an effective intercession that attracts abundant graces upon the souls for whom she weeps. Catholic tradition teaches us that Mary participates uniquely in the redemptive work of Christ. At the foot of the cross, she offered her Son for our salvation, uniting her maternal sufferings to the sacrifice of Calvary. Similarly, her tears in Shiluva are a participation in the pain that Christ feels for the souls that are lost, for the sheep that stray from the fold, for the children who reject the love of the Heavenly Father. Mary is co-redemptrix in the sense that she cooperates in a subordinate but real way with the saving work of Christ. And her tears are part of this maternal cooperation in the redemption of souls. The message of Shiluva also reminds us of the central importance of the sacred Eucharist in the life of the Church. Mary weeps specifically because her Son is no longer worshipped in that place, referring clearly to the Eucharistic presence of Christ. This affirmation of the Virgin is a celestial confirmation of Catholic doctrine on the real, substantial, and permanent presence of Christ in the most holy sacrament of the altar. The Protestants who denied this truth of faith and who considered the Mass as papist idolatry received through Mary's tears a maternal but firm correction. Christ is truly, really, and substantially present in the Eucharist, and this sacrament must be the object of our deepest adoration. Marian apparitions throughout the history of the Church have always had a maternal and pedagogical character. Mary comes as mother and teacher to remind us of the fundamental truths of the faith, to call us to conversion, to warn us about spiritual dangers, and to encourage us in our Christian life. In Shiluva, the maternal aspect of Mary is manifested in a particularly moving way through her tears. She does not come with severe reproaches or terrible threats, but with the silent weeping of a wounded mother who seeks to win back the hearts of her straying children. This pedagogy of love and maternal tenderness is typical of Mary's interventions in the history of salvation and demonstrates how divine mercy adapts to our human condition, making use of a heavenly mother to draw us towards the Son. Chapter 10, Devotion and Pilgrimage. Over the centuries, the shrine of Our Lady of Shiluva has become established as one of the most important Marian pilgrimage centers. In all of Eastern Europe, thousands of pilgrims journey to the shrine annually, especially during major Marian festivals, such as the Assumption of Mary and the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin. These pilgrims hail from all regions of Lithuania, but also from Poland, Latvia, Belarus, and other neighboring countries. Many undertake the journey on foot as a form of penance and devotion, traveling long distances while reciting the Holy Rosary and singing praises to the Mother of God. The devotion to Our Lady of Shiluva is characterized by its profound connection to the history of the Lithuanian nation. For Lithuanian Catholics, Shiluva is not merely a place of Marian devotion, but a symbol of their faith's resilience against persecution, of fidelity to the Catholic Church in difficult times, and of hope in Mary's powerful intercession. During the Soviet occupation, when religious practice was once again persecuted and restricted, pilgrimages to Shiluva became acts of courage and a public testimony of faith. The faithful risked job sanctions, loss of educational opportunities for their children, and even imprisonment simply for participating in these pilgrimages. Pope John Paul II, who had a special devotion to the Marian shrines of Eastern Europe, visited Lithuania in 1993 after the fall of communism. During his apostolic visit, The Holy Father publicly acknowledged the importance of Shiluva in Lithuanian religious history and encouraged the faithful to keep their devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary alive. This papal recognition gave new impetus to the pilgrimages, and since then the shrine has experienced an extraordinary flourishing. Restorations and improvements have been made to the facilities to better accommodate pilgrims. Catechesis and spiritual formation programs have been organized, and a pastoral ministry of welcome has been fostered, seeking to ensure that each pilgrim has a profound experience of encounter with Christ through Mary. The spiritual graces obtained in Shiluva through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary are innumerable. Pilgrims who arrived with hearts hardened by sin have experienced profound conversions before the image of Our Lady. Marriages on the brink of collapse have found reconciliation after praying together before Our Lady of Shiluva. Young people confused about their vocation have received clarity and discovered their calling to the priesthood or religious life. People suffering from depression or despair have found peace and hope. All these graces are a testament to the power of Mary's intercession and her constant maternal solicitude for each of her children. The devotion to Our Lady of Shiluva has also spread beyond the borders of Lithuania. Lithuanian communities in exile, especially in North America and South America, have built chapels dedicated to Our Lady of Shiluva and celebrate her feast day annually. These diaspora communities keep the devotion alive as part of their Catholic and Lithuanian identity, transmitting it to new generations born far from their ancestral land. Reproductions of the miraculous image are venerated in numerous churches around the world, carrying the message of Mary's tears and her call to fidelity to the Catholic faith to all continents. Chapter 11. Message of Shiluva for our days. The message that Our Lady of Shiluva left us more than 4 centuries ago retains a surprising relevance for our time. We live in an era in which, just as in 17th century Lithuania, many baptized Catholics have abandoned the practice of their faith. Churches remain empty in numerous regions that were once bastions of Catholicism, and religious indifference or secularism have replaced living, active faith. The tears that Mary shed in Shiluva could well be shed today for so many places where her Son is no longer worshipped, where the Blessed Sacrament remains forgotten in the tabernacles, where temples have been converted into museums or commercial premises. The warning implicit in the apparition of Shiluva challenges us directly. We cannot be indifferent to the abandonment of the Catholic faith. Every Catholic has a responsibility to keep the flame of faith alive in their own life and to transmit it to future generations. Catholic parents must educate their children in the truths of the faith, take them to Sunday Mass, teach them to pray the Holy Rosary, and set an example with a coherent Christian life. We cannot allow to happen in our families and in our communities what happened in Shiluva, that faith is lost, that temples are abandoned, that new generations grow up ignoring the richness of the Catholic tradition. The message of Shiluva also calls us to value the sacraments, especially the sacred Eucharist. In an era in which many Catholics attend Mass out of habit or obligation, without a true understanding of the mystery that is celebrated, Mary's words in Shiluva remind us that on the altar is made present the same Christ who died on the cross for us. The Holy Mass is not a simple community gathering or a symbolic ceremony, but the renewal of the sacrifice of Calvary. When we receive Holy Communion, we truly receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. This truth of faith, denied by Protestants at the time of the apparition, and forgotten by many Catholics in our days, must be rediscovered and lived with profound devotion. The apparition of Mary to a Protestant in Shiluva also has an important ecumenical message for our time. Mary shows us that she is mother of all, that her maternal love extends even to those who are not in full communion with the Catholic Church. However, this maternal love is not indifferent to the truth Mary calls all to the fullness of faith found in the church founded by her Son. True ecumenism does not consist of relativizing doctrinal differences or pretending that all Christian denominations are equally valid, but in working and praying that all may come to know and embrace the fullness of revealed truth, preserved and taught by the Roman Catholic Apostolic Church. Finally, the message of Shiluva invites us to cultivate a filial devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Holy Rosary, which was the constant prayer of Lithuanian Catholics who maintained their faith during persecution, must also be our spiritual weapon in the challenges of our time. Mary asks us to come to her with confidence, to present our needs to her, to entrust our families to her, to ask for her intercession before her Son, Jesus. She is our Heavenly Mother, who never abandons us, who weeps when we stray from the righteous path, and who rejoices when we return to the Father's house. Shiluva teaches us that Mary is always ready to intervene in human history, to help us, to guide us, and to lead us toward eternal salvation. Chapter 12. Prayer to Our Lady of Shiluva. O Blessed Virgin Mary, Our Lady of Shiluva, Mother of Mercy, and Refuge of sinners, you who shed tears of maternal love for your lost children, we humbly beseech you to turn your compassionate gaze upon us. You who wept because in Shiluva your Son was no longer adored. Help us to grow in love and devotion toward the most blessed sacrament of the altar, where Christ makes himself present for us. Our Mother, who appeared in Lithuanian lands to call your children back to the bosom of the Holy Catholic Church, intercede for all who have strayed from the faith of their ancestors. Touch their hearts with your maternal tenderness, illuminate their minds with the light of truth, and lead them back to the fold of Christ, where they will find the fullness of grace and the means of sanctification that your Son instituted for our salvation. O Mary of Shiluva, who showed special solicitude for the Lithuanian people in their time of trial, we ask you to protect all nations that suffer religious persecution, to strengthen the faith of Catholics who live in hostile environments, and to console those who mourn the apostasy of their loved ones. May your tears as a mother be transformed into abundant graces for the conversion of sinners and for the perseverance of the righteous. Most Holy Virgin of Shiluva, teach us to value the treasures of our Catholic faith, the Holy Mass, the sacraments, communion with the Holy Father, and with the entire Church. Keep our families under your protective mantle, preserve our children from error and infidelity, and make love for Christ and devotion to you, his most holy Mother, always reign in our homes. Mother of the Church and Queen of the Apostles, obtain for us the grace to be faithful witnesses of the gospel in our time, to defend the truth with charity, and to work tirelessly, so that all may come to the knowledge of your Son, Jesus Christ. May we never be ashamed of our Catholic faith, but may we profess it with courage and live it with consistency. Finally, oh, sweet Mother of Shiluva, when our final hour arrives, come to meet us with your maternal smile. May your tears of intercession obtain for us the grace of a good death, final perseverance in the love of God, and blessed entrance into eternal life, where, together with you, we will contemplate forever the face of your Son Jesus, in the company of the Father and the Holy Spirit. Amen.